So today we're going to be doing some kit bashing, and this one is going to be very close to my heart because we're going to be using one of my favourite models in the whole 40k universe, and that's because it is the one that had the art that drew me in to all the worlds of the 41st millennium. It was White Dwarf 195 March 1996 when they put Asmodai on the cover, and I saw it and went, holy shit, I want that, okay? I get it, I am on freaking board. I mean, do I have to explain to you why a slightly emo goth kid from the 90s thought that was cool? Because it's a space wizard with a fuck off sword, looking like death, and about to absolutely obliterate their foes. And it's because of this I became a Dark Angels fan, and I grew a whole army of Dark Angels around this piece of artwork. I never ever got anywhere near to painting it anywhere near as good as I wanted to, but in my mind it looked this cool. However, unfortunately, when I went to university, my mum sold all of my models. Went to a charity shop, which is great because hopefully that charity shop made some money. Probably not in the mid-noughties, but there you go. I went onto eBay very recently and had a look for one. And yes, you can find them for like 40 quid in box. But sneaking around and doing what I do on eBay, taking my time, I got one for a £5. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, he's missing some bits. But as we know, that's okay because we're in Kitbash land. And so he doesn't have a sword, he doesn't have the backpack, he doesn't have a standard, which you can get on some of them, but he does have the Crozius, he does have the big grill face, and he does have his really cool overcloak. So we're in. Now, I thought at first, I've got Dark Angels upgrades, I've got Death Watch upgrades, I can put things together and make this a proper reconstruction as best I can, using bits as an Asmodai. However, this is fueled by chaos, and I've got to sort of take that lean, and I want to push this a little further because why not have a bit of fun whilst we're doing it and spending some time with a bit of my childhood, to be honest, and why not just do what I would want to do with it. And so that's what we're going to be doing. A bit of Dornian Heresy, Chaos Corrupted, Asmodai. So here he is in all his metal mini glory. Now, I first raided the big spots for some cool things, and this is what I found. A cool goblin banner, the ever faithful Chaos Warrior shield, some horns to stick on there, a very awesome sword I got in a Dark Vengeance box set, which I love and it's got a great pose. This Underworld Stormcast, which again has the pose to hold that sword, and this Chaos backpack from the same thing. I also got my Inner Circle companions out, ready for later. So the first job was to find the arm and the sword for that missing right side, which I wanted to match the look of the image with the hand holding the sword leisurely. But then finding that Dark Vengeance sword I just showed earlier, what I like more about it is how it was holding the hilt as if it was jabbing down. So what I wanted to do was get a pose that would fix that, and thus I found this bit from that Stormcast Eternal from the Underworlds model. Now, one thing I noticed is that this is the opposite hand to what is compared to the artwork, as in they are left-handed holding the sword. So I just wondered which one is right. It's probably a question for my friend Jordan from Jordan Sorcery, because he knows everything about Oldhammer and the stories behind it, but was it Jess Goodwin, the modeler, or Mark Gibbons, the artist, who was correct? To note, the new model has the same handing as the Mark Gibbons artwork, so different to this model. Anyway, it's a bit of a tangent, but if I get an answer, I'll drop it in the comments below. So, to make the arm fit, this is where the Stormcast came in, as the pose worked to bring that hand up to make that more dramatic thrusting down sword action. However, as the scale is a bit off between the new heroic scale of that Stormcast model and the 28 scale of that 90 Space Marine, there was a bit of trimming that needed to be done, and I went overboard, hence the green stuff happening here, because I overcut it and I wanted to be able to adjust that posing. So in order to fit that, I put it over the ball joint and used this to kind of rebuild the shoulder that I'd sort of accidentally cut off. And that then made a better fit to then stick the sword on, which I just used a bit of green stuff to soft fix it to it. Now, looking back at the arm, I wasn't convinced exactly what I was seeing, so I just didn't want to chuck a shoulder pauldron on there either to hide it away, so to lean into the space with it vibe, as you can see, I just took a bit more green stuff to extend that cloak so it captured the shoulder of the model. I started by working into it with my rubber tools, and as ever, remember to use some Vaseline or Ethyte 45 green to soften the putty. And to be honest, the process is really simple because I just follow those beautiful lines and folds that are in this existing model. And I must say, working with this era of sculpt, you really start to appreciate the craft as it's a wonderfully expressive form of design. And this follows into the painting. I was going to say, I really enjoyed working with this level of detail. Next up was the standard, which is, and for me, quintessential of 90s Warhammer. So starting with the Goblin banner, I then went to the Inner Circle Companions box to nab their very cool Dark Angel standard, which fortunately is an alternative for the set, so I've not ruined them, even though I'm probably going to convert them into some Chaos Chosen or something later. Anyway, I tried a few combinations, flitting between that angel on the banner and then this other one which has got these bolted scrolls of it. It was a bit of back and forth until I finally found a configuration that I really liked, which was having that Goblin banner set in front of it like that, which I thought together looked both very Dark Angels-y and also a bit more grim and chaos-y, which is cool. Anyway, here again I used some green stuff as a way to just soft lock that banner in place just to check the look and the height. Next up then was to get that Dark Vengeance Champions backpack, which I love its Geiger alien facehugger look. It's so cool. It's freaking cool. But the fit was a little bit off, so there was a bit of work with not only the pin vise and the scalpel, just so that I get it the right height. And again, I used a little bit of green stuff just to soft lock that in place. Now the backpack was in place, I needed to fit the standard to it. So in order to get a good joint, I got out the pin vise again to drill a hole in the top of the backpack. Once that was done, it was a very simple situation of just gluing it and fitting it there. Done. Gotta say, this is the moment in the build when I started to really fall in love with what I was doing here, and I felt I was on the right track with things, so I really do hope you like it too. Now turning over the model and seeing this empty back to the skull, though that was what was right in the Goblin banner, for me didn't quite work as well here, so it looked unfinished. So I took a ball of green stuff and sculpted the rest of the skull out, creating an indent now on the base to make it look like it's hollow from below, as if the spine has been pulled out and the cavity is just left exposed. It just felt better. I then went to fit the back properly, but realised that the banner wasn't as secure as I hoped. Thus, not wanting to drop it any lower, I decided to sculpt the base of the shaft with a little bit of green stuff to form a more stable seal. And I just used the tools here just to follow that sort of bony structure again. I had another look at the model, and what was still standing out to me as a bit wrong was that right arm and cloak. I just didn't think it had gone like full Gandalf, and so I decided to extend the cloak up all the way to the back of the wrist, so it just covered the whole of that hand. And so with my green stuff and my tools, I just then shaped the cloak back into the hood, and using those folds and lines of that existing model, which again, so expressive, and it was a really great scale of detail to work with, I shaped that over the arm. This also offered me the opportunity to repose the sword position. Now the wrist was in a better height, and now I could get that sword thrusting downwards. I think it looked a lot better. A little bit of fettling here and there with the folds, but yeah, I was really happy. Now, I realised now that with the sword thrusting down, it was too long for the base, so we're going to have to deal with that later. First up though, I just re-looked at the Inner Circle Companions model and noticed that their overcloak extended completely over all of their armour, so I thought I would do the same here, particularly as I'm seeing that eventually these were part of a combined retinue of some sort. So I grabbed a much larger bit of grounding stuff and I began to sculpt a bigger overcloak to the entire model. At first I tried to keep it a bit more sweeping, working in the detail and folds as before, but I don't know, I would say it's not my best work. I feel next time I would know that I would have stopped a little bit earlier, like now, before I deformed the putty, because what I did is I went back in and tried to get a few more details and edges into it, and I think I made it a bit too messy, but anyway, it's fine. We'll get over it. But what it did do is it filled in that gap between the backpack and the back that was feeling a little bit empty before, so I'm pretty happy with that. Next up was the base, and as I mentioned, needing to elevate the model. So I went outside and stole some rocks from the garden, and that helped to give that height to it. Now, in order to fit the model to the base, I had to cut that beautiful little tab off, which I think I've kept. I really hope I've kept, because I try and keep those little souvenirs of all my models. Anyway, now he's on that rock, I realise he's going to need something to be stabbing down into, and what better for a Space Marine to be stabbing into than another Space Marine? I mean, I gotta say, it makes the best basing material around, a dead Space Marine. Alright? So I cut off some of the sprue bits and the push fit joints around this existing little part of a Space Marine that I had left over lying around, and added some extra bits of damage cuts before I was able to just glue it down. There was a bit of back and forth on the positioning of this, but because I wanted to make it so that it was a proper jab right into the throat, you know, make this a really grim, dark, you know, centerpiece. This is a Chaos Corrupted Dark Angel. They've gone absolutely rogue. This is exactly what they need to be doing. Now, once I'd figured out where I wanted to pose them, I realised I needed to get some flat footing for them. So starting off, I got some skulls and rocks and stuck those down, because you can never have enough skulls and rocks in 40k, and put a little bit of green stuff on both of his feet to help give a level out. I then go back later with a bit of tools and fashion it into a little bit of rock formation, so it feels a bit more natural, I guess. And this is where I got to on that day, and I felt that I had got to a really good place in sort of laying out the whole diorama. It just needed some few little final extra touches. So starting off, I had this Death Gorge set, which I'd already cut up for another kit bash, leaving this right leg of a skeleton that seemed perfect to put as a piece coming out of the Marine's armor, as if it'd been like melted or burnt or whatever off the model. So I did a little bit of back and forth cutting here and there before I was happy with it and got it into a place that I wanted. I cut off a bit more of that clothing before I put a bit of glue down and stuck it in place. The next thing was some guitar strings. I wanted to use these as some like broken cables or conduit coming out of the Marine's armor, thinking that on this right hand side they may have had like a bionic arm that had been ripped off, and then just placed some other bits and pieces just coming out from the neck and the joints, as if it was just some bits of general power armor detritus, you know, just to give it some effect of a more, you know, more deep battle damage to this model. The final bit then was a little bit of train ballast that I'd got from like a model train set, and I just stuck down a little bit of super glue, sprinkled it on, and then glue on top to set it in place. Once I'd covered that across the whole model, there was just one final piece de resistance, which is just that little bit, just to make sure everyone's aware that this is Chaos Converted, by sticking some horns to the model. And that was it. And now it's time to do the grand reveal. Now this week I've done all the painting myself off camera to spare you the wait. But just to say again how much fun I had painting this one, and I really do hope you like how it turned out. So here it is. So there you have it, my Chaos Corrupted Asmodai. I'm pretty freaking happy with this. The paint job, I wanted to do a little bit of OSL on that blade, but I got too scared, to be honest with you, because I felt I'd done actually a pretty good job, and I didn't want to then just do that next step and then ruin it and be like, oh, I'm an idiot. So it's something that maybe I'll do now that I recorded this and I've got the footage. But anyway, if you did enjoy this, please do give us a like and drop a comment below, because all engagement helps the channel grow. And do subscribe, because I've got some interesting kit bashes. I'm going to be doing a two-parter on how I can save you money through kit bashing, and particularly if you're doing an AOS Chaos Warriors army, because I've got a way of saving you about $100 by using a Chaos Knight, a bit of kit bashing, one part I've got from my Skaventie box set to make not only a Varangard, but also a Chaos Chariot. So I do hope I see you then. But until next time, you stay safe in the Unhive. Bye everyone.